Session for the 31st Guam Youth Congress is hereby called to order. I call on Representative LeBang for the prayer.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly God, thank you for this day. We ask you to guide us for the decision that we are making today. Please help us to open our eyes to see what is right for our island, to open our minds to think what is right, and to clear our souls so that we could do the right deeds. Lord God, please safeguard us and our family from harm always. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you, the woman, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
I call on Representative Dichoso for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
I call on Representative Tamagan for the Guam hymn.
Fanogita moru puritanota kantaina tunaya hisuri harai honra harai gloria aviva isla
I call on Representative Quintanilla for the Inifresi.
Inifresi, Ginimas Taculum, Ginasoku, Ufres and Misas, Darawa Tehi, Zanu Defendi, Inengi, Equatura, Inuai, Idiari, Hanu, Tanusmo, Yiri Shoku, Gaisu, Ginasu, Stop.
Thank you. You may be seated. Can I get first roll call?
Representative Adewang. Representative Angara. Representative Blas. Representative Carranza. Representative Casilla. Representative Cruz. Representative Delori. Representative DiCioso. Representative Farron. Representative Felisan. Representative Labang. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Makepeace. Representative Kendra McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Quintaniza. Representative Richards. Representative Rigetti. Speaker Santos. Representative Tamagan. Representative Valencia. Mr. Speaker, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to call for approval of the Legislative Journal. Representative Valencia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I do that, I make a motion to excuse members not present.
There's been a motion to excuse those not present today. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would now like to make a motion to waive legislative session agenda items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
There's been a motion to waive items 7 through 11 of the session agenda. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Moving on to item 12, introduction and first reading of bills and resolutions.
Bill number 19-31, an act to amend section 1022 of chapter 10, title 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the territorial flower of Guam. Bill number 20-31, introduced by Javen Santos, Byron Blas, Stephanie F.L. Lorenzo. An act to add new Article 7 to Chapter 26, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, relative to creating a rental car surcharge to supplement the general fund and public transportation. Bill number 21-31, as amended by the Committee on Administration and General Government Operations, introduced by Al Eldred C. Labang, Stephanie F.L. Lorenzo, and Byron Blas. An act to add new section 26705 to Article 7 of Chapter 26, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, as added by Public Law 34-87, relative to exempting senior citizens and persons with disabilities from the general sales tax, and to cite this as the Disability and Manumco Relief Act. Resolution number 13-31, introduced by Stephanie F.L. Lorenzo, relative to removing Representative Kiliko Farron from the 31st Guam Youth Congress due to inactivity and absence of such member for more than 3 consecutive sessions. Resolution number 14-31, introduced by Al Eldred C. Labang, relative to expressing a Congression Manhoban Guahan support of Bill number 264-34 COR, cited as the Working Families Relief Act, and introduced in Minute 34 na Legislatura ng Guahan, the 34th Guam Legislature. Resolution number 15-31, introduced by Al Eldridge C. LeBang, relative to commemorating the catastrophic mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman High School in Florida, to expressing full support against gun violence and to expressing a Congression Manhoban Guahan support of Bill number 265-34 COR, introduced in Minute 34 na Legislatura en Guahan. Resolution number 16-31, introduced by Stephanie F. L. Lorenzo, relative to recognizing the week of May 13th through the 19th, 2018 as Guam Police Week, and honoring all the brave women and men of the Guam Police Department, Port Authority of Guam Police, and the AB Wampat International Airport Authority Police for their service in protecting our island.
Thank you. Moving on to item 13 of our agenda, motions. Could I get, are there any motions? Representative Cruz, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call to motion to move Bill 19-31 to the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place bill number 19-31 in the second reading file. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative Cruz, you can make your opening statements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So with the bill 19-31, we wanted to tackle this issue due to the fact that as a proud Chamorro from Guam, why should we have something that's not endemic to our island represent us as a Chamorro people? The Putitana View was delegated as Guam's territorial flower by Public Law 9-222 in 1968. So basically, from that time to the present 2018, we've had something represent us that's not really describing us for the Chamorro people and who we really are. So I feel like by changing the flower to the Gausali to be Guam's territorial flower, it's kind of almost as a sense of cultural belonging and kind of going back to our roots and really taking cultural pride and more pride in our island, because by doing this, we're setting the foundation for future events, and it's the small things that count, really, because if you look at it with our Chamorro culture and language, a lot of it is borrowed, a lot of it, we were just colonized, basically. So by doing this, it's a step of decolonization, in a way.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Is there anyone else who would wish to testify on Bill number 19-31? Representative Richard.
The author's permission, I would like to make an amendment to add myself as a co-sponsor for this bill.
There is a motion to amend Bill number 19-31 to reflect Representative Richards as a co-sponsor of the bill. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
And the reason I'd like to do that is, although I was not involved in the truly, it is a great step forward in improving our identity as a people here on the island of Guam. And I personally, excuse me. I'm sorry, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Richards. Is there anyone else who would wish to testify on the bill in support or and against the bill? Could I have Representative Valencia take the chair?
Speaker Santos, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to express my support of Bill number 19-31. I feel as though, from a youth perspective, cultural identity is something that all of us should take seriously, because we have to recognize that a lot of people didn't even know that the Puti Tainubu isn't native to Guam, as well as not knowing the importance of why a territorial flower should be native, especially for a territory, especially for a Pacific island, especially for an island and a people who were so rooted in colonization that stuff like this might not even seem like an issue to a lot of people. This might seem like something small, and this bill has come up before in the legislature, and there has been concerns of what's the importance of this bill, what does it really serve to do, but the Gausali, or Guasali, depending on how you pronounce it, it served a practical purpose to the Chamorro people. It's not only a beautiful flower, but it stands as a symbol of practicality, and it stands as a symbol of just showing what the Chamorro people can do. Mr. Chair, I see this bill as a step in the right direction, because by acknowledging through the legislative intent that the Puti Tainubu, though beautiful and significant to have been the territorial flower for so long, it's time that we embrace our native endemic species. I feel as though a lot of people don't recognize that Guam has a mass extinction problem, and a lot of Guam's unique, diverse species are dying out, and things like recognizing it as a territorial flower can help to cement the importance of native species on Guam. I see it as a step in the right direction, not only because of its practical and cultural purposes, but for having the people of Guam acknowledging that we don't need to recognize a flower that was brought to us from another country when we have natural beauty here on our island. We have unique plants and flowers and animals that not many on Guam learn about anymore. And by acknowledging this bill and by recognizing that this bill serves so many practical purposes, it's not just a bill that people would see as not productive. And in the end, Mr. Chair, I just hope to ask all of my fellow representatives to see all the practical purposes of this bill and see that it's a symbol of not only the struggle culturally, but environmentally on this island. And I ask all of my fellow representatives to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you could take the chair.
Is there anyone else who would wish to testify in support or against the bill? Representative Quintanilla, you are recognized.
One of the reasons why I helped write this bill was that as one of my passions is the subject of decolonization. And although it might not have been the intention of those who designated the Puti Tainobio as Guam's territorial flower to be our flower, that is a form of colonization. One of the techniques of colonization that was imposed on the people of Guam was the vilification of our heritage and misrepresenting our culture, our heritage through the choice of flowers or of words and stuff like that. That is a form of colonization. And by overthrowing that decision, by changing the flower, we're taking control over our heritage again and imposing pride upon it. And that's one of the reasons why I helped write this bill. In my mind, there is the shadow of colonization present in the current choice of flower. And I just wanted to remedy that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quintanilla. Is there anyone else who would wish to testify for or against the bill? If not, then Representative Cruz, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm sorry, I actually didn't share this earlier, but I actually have a poster of what the flower looks like, so I'm just gonna... So this is actually what it looks like, and it's also known as the torchwood. So to close, not only was this, or is this flower used as a source of light and heat for the Chamorro people, being known as the torchwood, it's also taken out of a literal context. So the Gausali will be lighting a flame that will allow our culture to burn bright, because we are the future, and by doing the little things, setting the foundation, 10 to 15 years from now, we can look back at this and say, this is where we started. Because we have to do this for generations to come and for them to take pride in our island and be proud to be Chamorro. Thank you.
Representative Cruz, is there a motion to place the bill in third reading file?
Yes. Huh? Oh, yes, I make a motion to move Bill 19-31 to the third reading file.
There's been a motion to place Bill 19-31 in the third reading file for voting. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Could I have Representative Richards take the chair?
Speaker Santos, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to place Bill number 20-31 into the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place Bill 20-31 to the second reading file. Are there any objections? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill number 20-31 seeks to create a rental car surcharge tax. And the purpose of this rental car surcharge tax is to help address an issue that I am very passionate about, which is public transportation. I see a lot of benefits to expanding public transportation on our island. Public transportation could lead to more access to jobs, more access to for tourists to see our environment more, and I just feel that transportation is an issue that not many people on Guam even realize is an issue in the first place. Bill number 20-31 has come through. Bill number 20-31 is inspired by the fiscal realignment plan sent down by Imegalahan Guahan. In the fiscal realignment plan, he mentions, the plan mentions $10 rental car surcharge. And I decided to take that example and propose it directly to the legislature to see whether by using this method to help supplement our government in response to the fiscal crisis that we have seen, that this can be a step for not only to go into the, not only to ensure that the government of Guam is balanced and is not in danger of going into further debt, but also to put half of the funding to go towards the intentions of Public Law 34-87, and half of the funding that would be collected to go towards public transportation through the Guam Regional Transit Authority. Like I said, public transportation, if expanded and if used more on Guam, could be advantageous to our island in a lot of ways. I find a unique struggle on Guam because there's a unique struggle in that you need a car for work, but you need work for a car. And I feel that if public transportation, if we find a way to fund public transportation further, and seeing the priorities listed in Public Law 34-87, in seeing that the Guam Regional Transit Authority was not put as a high priority when it just kind of disappointed me, because I feel that public transportation, if tackled as an issue and if brought to light of all the advantages that public transportation has to the people of Guam, if it were expanded and if it were made more accessible, then you could see the island prosper further. The necessity for a car could go away, and if that necessity for a car could go away, that money that people save can go spending towards other things, and that could help to fuel our economy that way. And the access to transportation itself alone could help fuel our economy, because if more people have access to transportation, more people are going out. Mr. Chair, I just see so many benefits to finding ways to fund public transportation. The reason why I've pursued it through a rental car surcharge is that the idea of a rental car surcharge is beneficial to an economy that's heavily
Just a
driven
point
on-
of order. Two representatives left. Do we still have quorum despite that?
Representative LeBang, we only need quorum to start and to vote. I think
Okay.
we're okay now.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Please continue, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so the reason why a rental car surcharge is beneficial to a tourism economy is because a rental car surcharge, it tends to not affect the local populace as much, because most local people do not heavily rely on rental cars in order to travel. The rental car surcharge will be a surcharge that doesn't affect the people of Guam as directly as a sales tax or other examples of taxes. And the idea of public transportation, if the public transportation is supplemented, then that could help offset the use of rental cars, and the use of public transportation could is the use of public transportation as opposed to rental car surcharges where everyone is having their own car can be seen to have less of a carbon footprint as well. Mr. Chair, I hope that the rest of the body sees that not only is it important to try to find solutions to help our island in this fiscal crisis, but also to recognize that public transportation should be seen as a priority because it's not only an issue that would help the people of Guam, it would help the youth of Guam who may not have their licenses yet but still want to make a living, or not to make a living, but to make an income. And Mr. Chair, I think that the youth would widely benefit by having more access to public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Would anyone like to speak for or against this bill? Representative LeBang, you are recognized.
Mr. Chair, I want to apologize earlier. I just want to make sure everything is on place and in order.
That's fine. Thank you.
On the bill itself, I like the idea of the bill, like 50% going to the general fund and 50 to Guam Regional Transit. I would say this bill would help everyone. Seeing this bill, I think progressing it to passing it as a law will be great. And I fully support this. No one likes taxes at all. I'm gonna say that, but like, we have to tax our people just to keep our government running, and we need to keep our public school open and the Guam Memorial Hospital open for those who are sick. So the only way is to levy tax. That's my testimony for this bill. That's all, and I fully support this, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative Valencia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to express my support for this bill, Mr. Chair. I think it's a very unique way of approaching the situation or the crisis that we have with the financial crisis. And I applaud the sponsors, or the sponsor, the main sponsor of the bill, for coming up with such an idea. I think it's a great idea because it would not only tax, it's not just going to be on the backs of our people. It would also be, people coming in and tourists. And tourists always need rental cars. And this would really help us with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Valencia. Would anyone else like to speak on the bill? Representative Casilla, you're recognized.
Thank you. First, I have a question for
Speaker Santos. Will you yield? Yes. All right. You may ask your question.
All right. So, my question is, do you know how much the fare is for the current public transit?
I believe for students, senior citizens, and for students, senior citizens, people with disabilities, it's 35 cents a day. Of course, you can buy a one-day pass or a one-week pass to go to that, to make your, for the better value. But it's 35 cents a day if you fall into that category, and I believe if you do not fall in that category, it's $1 per day.
Okay, that was my question. So, okay, all right, thank you for that information. So I'd like to continue on with my my statement for the support for this bill. So I'm more in support for the whole sentiment of what this bill tries to achieve, and that's to improve the public transportation of Guam. And just getting that information that a fare going from one place to another is 30 cents a day. That that gives me that sounds really nice, because for someone speaking from personal experience, I live in Bargada. I go to UOG, and I drive a pickup, which is not very efficient for its gas mileage. And so what I noticed from my every time I go gas, it's actually I run up to about $60 every 2 weeks. So if you do the math, if I go to school from Monday to Friday for 2 weeks, that's 10 days, and 60 divided by 10, that's almost as if I'm spending $6 per day. Imagine if I could just simply ride a bus to go to school for 35 cents a day. I probably have a bigger balance in my bank account right now. And that's just one testimony. And I think that in my case, I'm someone who's very fortunate to have to have parents, and also to have a job to support that type of gas expenditure. But the thing is, not everybody is as fortunate. Others have, unlike me, others have to pay on top of their gas, their tuition. Some even have to support their family. And so just the sentiment of also just bringing down the cost of transportation, not just for students, but also for everybody, that it really sounds great. And if I were to further extend this to the working class, I've also had some testimonies where someone from my church just came to Guam. He didn't know how bad, how it was. Almost, it is a necessity to have transportation here. Otherwise, you're kind of disabled on island. He lives in Dededo. He got a job at Payless, and he told me for the first few months he got to Guam and he was working at Payless, he'd actually walk from his house to Payless, and he would have to plan ahead, leaving the house 3 hours before his work. And just hearing something like that, I wouldn't want to walk from Dededo to Payless Oka. And just seeing something like how this bill helps promote public transportation in a way that he won't have to prepare 3 hours in advance just to go to work. Because that's 3 hours. Minimum wage is what, $8? $8 an hour. That's at least $24 that he lost from his day. So that, in the long scale, just this sentiment of helping public transportation, it will help boost the economy. And another thing I want to point out is that in other places that have excellent public transportation, it's an ideal place that I wish Guam would also have. 2 summers ago, I was at Arizona. I did not have a car, but I was able to go to the mall, go to these museums, just because they have excellent public transportation. Specifically, they had these buses called Orbits, and I did not even have to pay a single cent. All you have to do is know where the buses stop and know where your transportation is, and there you go. You can get around the city very, very easily. And when we enable the locals to if we afford our locals to have the same privilege of going around the island as easily as how they do in Arizona, I think there's so much benefit to it that I can't even think about it right now. but yeah, really support the sentiment of this bill, and I hope it passes.
Thank you, Representative Casilla. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the bill? Seeing as there's no one else, Speaker Santos, you may make your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I thank representatives who have spoken in support of this bill. Just to make more clarifications of this bill, Representative Casilla brought up a good point in saying that, in saying that he owns a car, but he could see the advantages of having access to transportation. And I think that's a good point that I didn't really consider before his testimony. It's that increasing access to public transportation doesn't take away cars. It's not like increasing public transportation is gonna prevent you from using the cars that you have. But by increasing the access to transportation, you have options. You can choose whether, if you have the time to spare, you use public transportation and save a couple dollars, or if you don't have time to spare and you're in a rush, you can use your car that you have. I can also attest to experiencing a very efficient public transportation system while I was on an internship in DC. And by going to DC and seeing just how much they have there, they have metro systems, they have buses, they have free buses, they have monorails. There's just so much access to transportation, and you can really see it. I can also attest that I did not have a car when I was in DC, and I didn't need it. And if I needed a car when I was in DC, that would have really weighed down the opportunities, weighed down my opportunity to go there. And I feel as though if we recognize that public transportation is a benefit and that you can still keep your cars, if we find a way to, we just need to find a way to fund public transportation so that people have options. And for some people, yes, we have to acknowledge that for some people, right now they have no options. And public transportation will give those people, options. I just wanted to point out on page 4, line 1, it explains the uses of the funds. Page 3, line 25 states that it will go into the Guam Regional Transit Authority Fund. And page 4, line 1 explains that we hope the bill will be able to be used towards, or we ask that the funds created through this bill would be used for expansion, improvements, maintenance, and the last part is increasing youth accessibility to public transportation, which I wanted to make clear in this bill because I feel as though youth don't have high salaries where they can just go buy, or they can just afford to buy cars. And by highlighting youth accessibility, that I want to make it clear to the people of Guam and to the Regional Transit Authority that right now, the youth don't have access, the youth's access to public transportation is difficult. The public transportation only comes once every hour if all the buses are running, and the youth are the ones that could highly benefit from this because they may not have cars, but they still want an opportunity to work. And I hope that by highlighting youth accessibility in this bill, Guam Regional Transit Authority can find a way to improve on what they already have so that more youth can be riding the mass transit and more youth can have access to opportunities and to see our island in general. And once again, I thank all those who spoke out in support of this bill. And with that, Mr. Chair, I move to place Bill 20-31 into third reading file.
There's been a motion to place Bill 20-31 to the third reading file. Are there any objections? Oh,
Just a point of information. So I did the math. If I were to have that 35-cent fare, I would have saved about $1,356 a year.
thank you, Representative Casilla. With that, are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Mr. Speaker, would you resume the chair?
Representative LeBang, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, with the passage of Public Law 37-87, it raises the business privilege
Representative
tax.
LeBang, we are still in motions.
Oh. Mr. Speaker, I move Bill 21-31 to second reading file. Sorry.
There's been a motion to place bill number 21-31 into the second reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative LeBang, you can make your opening statement.
Sorry, it's been a while since we have a session. My colleagues, with the passage of Public Law 34-87, it raises the business privilege tax for Guam by 25%, which is from 4% to 5%. The increase in BPT started since the beginning of this month. Additionally, Public Law 34-87 also called for 2% general sales tax on Guam to start this October 2018. Raising taxes has both positive and negative outcomes. The positive is that we could cover the budget deficit of the government of Guam administration. The negative is the cost of living in Guam will rise, and the people from Guam, from low class, middle class, and higher class, and upper class, will be affected by the rising of cost of living. Furthermore, a big probability that Guam's economy of tourism might depreciate due to the sales tax. During the marathon of a special session called by Governor Calvo, the Guam legislature have discussed, deliberated, and amended Bill 248-34. At that time, an amendment that stand out to me is by Senator San Nicolas. The amendment that exempt the people of Guam from paying the sales tax while letting tourists and visiting military personnel pay the sales tax. However, it was contrasted by his fellow senators and cited as a discriminatory taxation. With the sales tax, everyone will be affected, including persons with disabilities and senior citizens. In the Philippines, they have value-added tax, which is their general sales tax. And it is 12%, which is basically. However, the Filipino leaders exempt persons with disability and senior citizens in the Philippines. The reason is that persons with disability and senior citizens receive compensation from the government. Like for people with disability, they get compensation, and senior citizens get pension from Social Security. And by taxing them through sales tax, it's like we're taking the portion back from them. That is the message I'm trying to convey with this bill. My fellow colleagues, there is no one in this world that likes taxes. But we need to keep our government running, keep the schools open for students to learn, keeping the Guam Memorial Hospital for those who have medical conditions, and keeping our fire station and police department open to ensure public safety. The idea that I propose to help our people by exempting them from paying taxes, especially Manangkus and persons with disability. Beyond that, I have 2 amendments to this bill. The first will be page 2, line 18. Guam Code annotated and by section 7120.12, A through F of chapter 7, to add and by American with Disability Act. Just the definition in there, by the American with Disability Act.
Could you repeat your amendment?
Chapter 18, to add and by American with Disability Act.
Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to make an amendment to the amendment, if
Okay.
that's possible. I think it would be best if we place the following definition in line 20 after the word physician, comma. Because that whole thing is citing the definitions as to who a person with disability is. So right after physician, comma, we can put that definition.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So there is an amendment to the current amendment to place, I'm sorry, could you repeat the verbiage?
And by American with Disability Act.
There is a motion to place
As defined by the American with Disability Act.
There's a motion to place as defined by the American Disabilities Act after physician. This is the amendment to the amendment. In line 20 of page 2 of Bill 21-31, is there any objections to the amendment Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We will now discuss the amendment itself. Is there anyone who would wish to speak on the amendment? Is everyone clear on what the amendment reads and why? Seeing as there are no one who wishes to speak on the amendment, are there any objections to the amendment? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Is there anyone who would wish to speak on the bill as amended? Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to express my opposition to this bill, not that because I am against the Manamku or the disabled. I just believe that this might be, if we can solve the problem in a much bigger way with repealing the sales tax altogether and cleaning house within our government instead of burdening our people with taxes. If anybody, or if all of us have been reading the papers lately, there's one example of our government overspending way above their means. And this is with the Guam Economic Development Authority spending $540,000 in just travel. You know, do we really need to travel. And even the administrator, I'm sorry, he was posting about how his frequent flyer miles are now 1 million points. I think it's high time that we examine ourselves, or in terms of the government examining itself, before placing the burdens on our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Valencia. Is there anyone who would wish to testify for or against the bill? Representative Choso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start off by saying that I am in opposition to the bill. I think Representative Valencia made all the points that was necessary for that reason. I can empathize with the intent of the bill, and I believe that those who are disabled and the Manamco could, I think that the intent, just the general intent of the bill is something that I can support. However, I do agree with Representative Valencia in that there's a bigger fish to catch. I am not in support of the 2% sales tax, even if the intent is to keep the government running. I think there are other proper methods in doing so. My issue with this bill is if this bill were to pass, and if we were with its stated intent, it's almost as if we're in solidarity with the 2% sales tax, and that's something I can't necessarily stand for. So with that in mind, and with all the points already stated by Representative Valencia, I am in opposition to this bill, and thank you.
Thank you, Representative Choso. Is there anyone else who wish to speak on this bill? Representative Casilla, you're recognized.
Can I call for a short recess?
Sure.
3 minutes.
We are now in a 5-minute recess.
34th Guam Youth Congress is back in session. Representative Casilla, you had the floor.
Yes. So I'd like to make a motion to send this bill back to committee. I feel that there's bigger works that's in place for this bill.
Okay. Representative Casilla, can we, if it's the
Of
will of the
course.
body, or if it, with the permission of the body, can we entertain that motion after Speaker Santos does his remarks?
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to express my, I just wanted to ask Representative Labang a few questions if he would yield before I make my statement.
Representative Labang, do you yield?
Okay.
Okay.
Representative Labang, do you have any counter argument to the? Ooh.
Wait, is it power outage or we're on?
Representative Labang, do you recognize that by creating exemptions, you create you take away from what's projected to be the fiscal gains of the intention of the tax bill?
Yes.
Do you find that there's a disadvantage in making that making those exemptions if those exemptions will add up to the point where it hurts the government more? And we don't have any numbers to go along with this either, so I recognize that. But if there's exemptions, then less money will be going into the government. Do you have how do you justify this bill if the intention of the tax bill to increase revenue is taken away by creating exemptions?
Can you repeat your question?
How do you justify this bill when the intention of the sales tax is to increase revenue, but by adding exemptions, you decrease the amount of revenue that was researched into to help offset the costs of this fiscal crisis?
I think that the sales tax, I think it will hurt the people the most. I think it should be repealed or something at the same time, but like the only thing that we need to do right now is to pay the shortfall of the Guam Department of Education and other departments. So like, it's like that is left from last fiscal year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the government needs money for that. But like, if we take it off, then we won't have, take it off completely, then we won't have anything to at least pay some portion of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no further questions, but I would just like to express that I'm not sure where my vote would be on this bill. I see this bill as well-intended in regards to many senior citizens and persons with disabilities are on fixed incomes, and I see that if the fixed income is not able to adjust to that sales tax, then that exemption would greatly benefit those people who are on those fixed incomes. That way it doesn't hurt their livelihood by adding this. Mr. Chair, I see this bill as well-intended, and I hope to hear a little bit more testimony to guide my opinion, or to just have further conversations on this bill and have further conversations on the increase of the sales tax in general, because I feel as though what's missing in the conversation is the idea that our tax code is aligned with the federal tax code, and that the decisions of the federal tax code have affected our island in a really significant way, and we don't have a vote in the national body where they made that decision. So we will, I'm personally unsure of whether the bill would have that much of effect, and I'm personally unsure of whether the Trump tax cut on the federal income tax will show such a large benefit to those people who are paying taxes, or those people who are expecting, who may come back with higher tax refunds. I just would like, not only is, I would just like the body and the people of Guam to recognize that not only is that the conversation is more than increasing taxes. The conversation should include looking at the fact that our income tax code is at the will of a body that we don't have a vote for, and looking into solutions to change that. So in the context of this bill, and in the context of the general sales tax, the intention is well regarded. But when we talk about taxing in general, there's this controversy. There's this controversy in it, and I feel that we need to recognize that controversy as well as we go in voting for this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. And now, back to Representative Casilla, back to your motion. Could you please restate your motion?
I make a motion to move this bill back to committee.
There's been a motion to send bill number 21-31 as amended by the... Okay. There's a motion to send bill number 21-31 as amended by the Committee on Administration and General Government Operations back to committee. And there's been an objection. All those in favor, please raise your hand. In favor of sending it back to committee. Motion passes. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, we are back in motions. Are there any other motions? Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make a motion to move Resolution 13-31 to the second reading file.
There's a motion to place Resolution 13-31 in the second reading file. Are there any objections? There are none. Motion passes. Representative Lorenzo, you can make your opening statements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wrote this resolution because, this resolution is to remove Representative Kaliko Faharin due to the inactivity, because he hasn't been here for 3 consecutive sessions. And I feel that with having members who are inactive, who are clearly inactive, you know, it does have an effect of our quorum. I mean, on the first month of this year, January, we were unable to have a session because we didn't meet quorum. And that was because we didn't have communication with this member or other members who just haven't been showing up. And I feel that if we remove all of the inactive members, we're able to, become more effective. We're able to start on time. Like today, we were able to start relatively on time. So I feel that by removing the inactive members, we are able to really make this organization more effective. And yes, so I ask that you please support this resolution, and we could, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Is there anyone who would wish to speak on this resolution? Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Is it okay if Legislative Secretary would yield the question?
Representative Lorenzo, do you yield?
Yes, I yield to a question.
Do you have the attendance for everyone? Because I think there's other members that we can remove as well.
Yes, I was going to make an amendment.
Okay, that's all.
Hey.
Thank you, Representative LeBang.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to make an amendment to my resolution. I would like to include the following representatives on top of alongside Representative Fajarin. So based on the records of both the Legislative Secretary of Guam Youth Congress and Senator Regine Biscouli's office, the following representatives who have been absent for three consecutive sessions are Representative Fajarin, Representative Ethan DeLaury, Representative Joanna Carranza, and Representative Jermel Adawag. Now that's 4 people that we are able, that if we decide to remove them today, our quorum number would be smaller, and we're able to start on time, be more. Pardon? I didn't say for you. He resigned. He turned in a resignation letter. So with Representative Fajarin, DeLaury, Carranza, and Adawag, I feel that if we do remove these inactive members, Guam Youth Congress is able to be more effective, and we won't have to worry about struggling to make quorum every single month. Because if we were to reflect on this, on the past 4 months, we only had session twice because of quorum. And so I feel by removing these members, we're able to become more effective. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Representative Valencia?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to make an amendment to the amendment.
All right.
Just the specifics of the amendment I would like to address. So on lines 7 to 8 of the resolution, I'd like to amend those particular lines to say, whereas Representative Kaliko Farron, Representative Ethan DeLaury, Representative Joanna Carranza, Representative Jermel Adawag have been absent for 3 consecutive sessions.
Is everyone clear on the amendment to the amendment? Are there any objections to the amendment to the amendment? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Now
Thank you,
speaking
Mr.
on the
Speaker.
amendment, yes. Now speaking on the amendment to include those members in the resolution, is there anyone who would wish to speak? Seeing as there are none, is there anyone who objects to the amendment? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Now to speak on the resolution as a whole, Representative Valencia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to add another amendment on line 13 to add the names of the 3 other members after Representative Kaliko Farron.
Oh. Representative Representative Lorenzo, what was the initial amendment? I thought this was what we were amending already. Oh, okay, okay. Okay. So there's a motion to reflect the members added to the resolved clause. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Now to speak on the bill or the resolution as amended. Does anyone wish to speak on the resolution? Seeing as there are none, Representative Lorenzo, you can close. Oh, Representative LeBang? Is there anyone else who would wish to speak on the resolution? Representative LeBang, if you wish to make an amendment to the resolution, you may do so.
Okay, so I have one more amendment. On the resolve part, to notify the mayor of Manila, principal of Tizen High and Guam Community College.
Are you adding to the resolved clause for transmittal, or are you making a new resolved clause?
For transmittal.
Okay. So you're adding the mayor's, the Tizen
mayor
High?
of Manila, principal of the Guam
Representative
Community
Lorenzo?
College and Tizen High.
Representative Lorenzo?
So I believe what Representative LeBang is trying to add is he wants to notify the respective villages and schools that the representatives we're trying to remove the inactive members.
Yeah.
So that would be Tizen High, Guam Community College, and Manilao.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Representative LeBang, that's your amendment?
Yes.
Okay. So, Representative Casilla?
I express my opposition for this amendment. I do see that communicating to these to the institutions that the representative is being removed from our body is important. I think we can do that internally with the leadership of this body, and I see that there's no reason to do that specifically on the resolution. There's no use to do that.
Thank you, Representative Casilla. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the amendment? Seeing as there are none, are there any objections to the amendment? Are there any objections to the amendment? By show of hands, all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Motion passes. Now to the resolution. Is there anyone who would wish to speak on the resolution as amended? Seeing as there are none, Representative Lorenzo, would you like to make your closing statements?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank all the representatives here that spoke. I mean, it shows that you guys do see the issue here of making quorum, and thank you for your support of the intent of the bill. Thank you, or the resolution, the intent of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. You made your motion.
I make a motion to move Resolution 13-31 to the third reading file.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We are now in motions. Are there any further motions? Okay. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I move to place Resolution 14-31 to second reading file.
There's a motion to place Resolution 14-31 to the second reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative LeBang, you can make your opening statement.
With the Resolution 14-31, supporting Bill 264-34 of the Guam legislature was my inspiration of writing Bill 21-31. Exempting the taxation of basic necessities such as groceries, feminine hygiene products, and medicines with the Working Families Relief Act, which is the title of the bill. People that are in lower class and middle class trying to uplift their status would not face the burden of thinking if they would have a food on the table the next day. They will not worry if they will have money to buy medicine for their sick family members. Colleagues, I do not want to see people dying because they could not afford to buy medicine and die from hunger. It is better to recognize that some people are trying to work hard to have food on the table. Earlier, I think when we talked about Bill 21, I think there's opposition. And my counter is that it's about to happen now. Then I think it will take time for us for that public law to be repealed, but let's at least do something to help our people, that we can voice out something. Because and I think October is like just a few months away, like before it can get repealed. And like the senators are having committee meetings for those bills, I think next month only. So like they will have more time to hear exemption or just repeal the public law at all before October. But like I'm just saying, if before October it's not repealed, then like at least we exempt our people from buying those goods such as groceries and medicines. Because I think it's hard for someone that is like sick and they pay medical fees that's so high, like sometimes it adds up to $1 million because they don't have insurance and stuff. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak on the resolution? Representative Richards, you're recognized.
I think Representative LeBang brings up a good point, as if there's no opposition and the sales tax comes into effect, that this will at least keep things affordable for the less fortunate among us. Personally, I grew up on food stamps and Medicaid, and it's hard. And increasing prices just makes things worse for the people that are using those programs. And I'd like to commend Representative LeBang for supporting this bill. Thank you.
Just an amendment on the formatting. It still says 2017 second regular session. Can that reflect the 2018 third regular session? Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that amendment?
On the formatting, it says 2017 second regular session.
Okay.
So can we change it to 2018 third regular session?
Okay. There's been a motion to amend just a technical error. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Moving on to speak on the resolution. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak on the resolution? Could I have Representative Lorenzo take the chair?
Mr. Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to commend Representative LeBang for writing this resolution and for considering the support that Bill 264-34 has to the Working Families Relief Act. Of course, the working families. I would like to for everyone to consider the fact that this bill that Public Law 34-87 does not apply to purchases. I believe it's not supposed to apply to purchases made under food stamps. But in regards to working families, I commend the sponsor for this bill, or the sponsor for this resolution in support. However, I cannot express my support to this resolution. I see Bill 264-34 as I really am interested in the discussions that are going on with Bill 264-34, and I would like to see those discussions go further before I can express my support on the resolution. I recognize the issues that people have with the 2% sales tax and how that could be a burden to many people. However, I am very hesitant to the idea of exemptions to the sales tax without any reasonable way to offset the financial burden of exemptions, whether it's through further cuts to offset those exemptions or through creating funds the other way, creating funds by increasing taxes on something else. I am very worried about the financial stability of our government, and I feel as though exemptions without any bills to, or exemptions without any without any measures to offset the cost of the exemptions are they're just whether I would vote on it, and it's a concern that I have in this bill as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak for?
I just want to tell everyone that if we repeal the sales tax, I think it will be a great idea as well, but like, I don't think that will be possible if we have deficits. The only thing that I can see to at least ease the people is through supporting a resolution, through having bills or resolution that would give our people insurance in our island. And I myself do not support tax increase, but if we have to have tax increase to support our government, then I think that's we need to think about.
Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Point of inquiry, Madam Chair, is what I'd like to ask a question to Representative. Do you find any significant difference between?
I have not seen that at all yet.
Okay. Okay, that's all then. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative LeBang, would you like to make any motions?
Madam Secretary, move to place Resolution 15-31 to third reading file.
Resolution 14-31.
14-31.
Would you like to? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes. Representative or Speaker Santos, please take the chair.
We are on motions. Our motion to place Resolution 15-31 in the second reading file. Are there any objections?
As everyone knew, yesterday I testified on a public hearing. The public hearing is for Bill 265-34 is to first commemorate our counterpart youths in Florida that died in the catastrophic shooting that happened there. And secondly, to express our support against gun violence. Yesterday, Teason High and George Washington High School, they had a rally against gun violence. It's actually in the front page of the newspaper for PDN. And it's also in one of the pages for the Guam Second Amendment. But let me read you the Second Amendment. Second Amendment states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Also a representative from the Attorney General's office that February 14, 2018, Valentine's Day, turned to a day of horrors to the students of Marjory Stoneman Douglas and multiple magazines. He killed 17 individuals, which 13 of them are students ages 14 to 18. Distinct colleagues, the Stoneman Douglas High School is not the horrific, catastrophic, and traumatic school mass shooting that happened within the United States. We all remember 2012, the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where the lives of 20 innocent children between the ages of 6 and 7, can you imagine that? 6 and 7 years old dying from guns. Additionally, 6 school staffs and the mother of the perpetrator and himself died. It's been a while since there is a mass shooting that happened like this here on Guam. It's like, I just read in the newspaper today that it happened in February 26, 2001 at SDA Clinic, where 6 people died. So a lot of people might say that it's kind of impossible of here in Guam to happen that in our schools, but we need the insurance to keep them safe, because like we give them free education, but do we provide them with security, safe environment? Also, with the testimonies made by the opposition, they are citing mental health issues. I would say, I'm taking psychology right now, and like one of the 7 teams is that psychology is theoretically diverse. I would say there's 2 theories, like the gun causing it and the health issue causing it. But I would say both of them are right. So it's both the guns and the health issues. Here's my reasoning on that. If someone is insane, to kill someone, they will use a gun. So it means the gun is used as a fact to kill people. So I think it's also the gun that the person sees. I also learned that there are 3 ways to connect guns and mental health issues. First, guns through video games can cause someone to have a mental issue and like go out there and perform what they're doing in the video game. Secondly, mental insanity causing a person to use a gun and kill people. And third, there are other factors causing it. Beyond that, the point of this resolution is to express Guam Youth Congress support against violence. And the way we can show that is supporting Bill 265-34. We're the Youth Congress representatives. We represent the youth. The youth yesterday had rally. They had wave in Barrigada intersection. So I think as a representative, I'm representing them. I just want to quote someone that Speaker Santos asked me yesterday to read their testimony. It's from Maya Tersini. She's a public speaker and community leader from March of Our Lives in San Francisco. So she said, by large, I believe Bill 265-34 reflects the needs of the people of Guam as ascertained through a student poll in Simon Sanchez High School, where 79% of students polled answer yes to the question in light of the most recent school shooting in Florida. Do you worry? Okay, I concur that your office this one is given through Senator Lahi's office. I also want to quote Emma Gonzalez, one of the student of Soman Douglas High School that became an activist. In a little over 6 minutes, 17 of our friends were taken from us, 15 more were injured, and everyone absolutely in the Douglas community were forever altered. Everyone who was there understands everyone who has been touched by the cold grip of the gun violence. For us, long, tearful, chaotic hours in the scorching afternoon sun were spent not knowing. No one understood the extent of what had happened. No one could believe that there were bodies in the building waiting to be identified for over a day. No one knew that the people who were missing had stopped breathing long before any one of us had even known that the code red has been called. No one could comprehend the devastating aftermath or how far this would reach or where this would go. I think some people might say mental insanity is a problem, but I also say it's both gun and mental insanity. That's the problem in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak on the resolution? Representative Choso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that I am in support of this resolution. However, I'm only in support of the first the first part of the resolution. The second part, in which it states its support for bill number 265-34, that's where I'm a little bit shaky on, because it's what it really is just it's just another gun control measure, and I believe that it is fully possible to support. I believe it's fully possible to be against gun violence, and to state our solidarity with the tragedy, or with those who face this tragedy, without having to support gun control, because I believe that it is irresponsible to see this issue as an issue with guns and less than an issue of mental health. because it's simply a fact of the matter that if a responsible and trained gun owner were to have a gun, somebody like just to I guess to put it more clearly, somebody with mental illness is less likely to be a responsible and trained gun owner. And I think lobbying together all gun owners into the same category as somebody who would walk into a school and start shooting up students, I think that's an irresponsible comparison to make. And what I'm seeing a lot from one side of the gun control issue is that there's a lot of demagoguing, and people are really not looking at the rational argument, because if you're to ban guns or even just parts of guns, it's not going to stop bad people from acquiring these items. I think that I agree with the resolution, and I am in solidarity with those who face this tragedy, and I am against gun violence. However, I think it's important. I think Bill 265-34 in particular is the step in the wrong direction. I think that we have to look at school security and arming good people and keeping guns out of those who are irresponsible or just unfit to own guns in general. That being said, I do support this resolution. I am a little shaky on the last part. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dichoso. Speaker Santos, you're recognized. Oh, sorry. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this resolution? Representative Valencia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to reiterate Representative Dichoso earlier. I am also in support of commemorating the catastrophic mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman High School, but I in particular am in opposition of supporting Bill number 265-34 COR for three particular reasons. First of all, the bill aims to ban bump stocks, and if any of us know here what bump stocks are, they're pretty much a gun accessory that allows a gun owner to make his rifle mimic a semi-automatic weapon. So the bump stock allows you to, so with one trigger, the bump stock goes back to your shoulder and then goes back and to your finger and recoils, right? So pretty much one trigger means multiple bullets, mimicking a semi-automatic weapon. But firstly, we can't ban techniques. Again, bump stocks are used by gun enthusiasts as an accessory. And really, gun owners can just, instead of a bump stock accessory, you can use a belt. Anybody can watch a YouTube video and learn that to just attach it. There's a technique called the belt loop. You can attach it to your belt loop, and then it does the same thing. So really, we can't ban, or banning bump stocks is just, it's not doing what we intended to do. It doesn't do anything, because gun owners or gun enthusiasts can use another technique. We can't ban techniques. And Section 3 of Bill 265 says that any persons in possession of a bump fire stock firearm attachment or any other attachment or device used to increase a cycling firing rate to mimic nearly continuous fire or to mimic a machine gun, pretty much, if gun owners and gun enthusiasts can use other techniques, like using a belt, are we banning belts? Second of all, there's no registry for bump stocks. We have no way of knowing who has purchased bump stocks prior to the enactment of this act. And we have no way of enforcing such legislation because, as some of my colleagues have spoken to me before session, we have no way of enforcing this because we can't go from house to house and just see who has a bump stock accessory. We don't, also, if somebody can purchase them online and we wouldn't know whether they have it or not. And third of all, with bump stocks, again, it's an accessory for gun enthusiasts. They won't miss them, really. There's no proliferation of bump stocks here on Guam. I mean, a couple or some gun owners purchase them online, you know, some of them, but there's no high proliferation of them here on Guam. Gun enthusiasts won't miss them. And again, this legislation, I believe, is, in a way, just doing something. I get the intent. I am all for that. I understand. But in my opinion, the legislation just tries to make us feel good by doing this, by banning bump stocks. It's what a lot of people are calling virtue signaling. You know, we're showing people that yes, we're anti-gun, we're anti-gun violence, which is why we're banning bump stocks. But that's not really doing anything. If we want to do anything, we, as Representative DeChoso has spoken to earlier, and as well as the sponsor of this resolution, he addressed the bigger issue of mental health. Again, I would like to express my opposition to this resolution. If we could amend this resolution to delete parts of the resolution just to say that we commemorate and we stand in solidarity with those who witnessed the tragedy or experienced the tragedy at Marjorie Stone High and the other mass shootings. But if the wording to support Bill number 265 stays on the resolution, I believe I will be in opposition of this resolution. Again, we can't ban techniques. There's no registry for bump stocks, and there's no proliferation of them on Guam. Gun enthusiasts won't miss them, and it's all just virtue signaling. And that we need to address the bigger issue of mental health, which is why in the coming weeks I will be introducing a bill requiring that faculty and staff, or some faculty and staff in schools, be required to be certified in youth mental health first aid training so that we can address mental health in schools and ensure that students are taken care of in the midst of high rates of depression and suicide rates on Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Valencia. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Can I call for recess? I'm gonna make an amendment to this.
Sure, there has been, okay, recess. Anyone here oppose? No, recess.
Am I in?
Okay.
Okay.
Session for the 31st Guam Youth Congress is back in order. Representative LeBang, you may continue.
Before I make the amendments, can other people do their testimony first?
Yes, of course. Is there anyone else that would like to speak for or against this resolution? Speaker Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to express my support for this resolution. I see this resolution as commemorative and helping us all to realize the issue of violence that we have in this country. I also would like to express my support of the intention of supporting Bill 265 insofar as wanting the intention of the bill being banning the I also support the idea of banning bump stocks. In listening to the testimony of Bill 265, it was really eye-opening how many people were worried about this bill infringing on the Second Amendment. When in legal terms, I don't believe that a bump stock is considered an arm to bear. A bump stock is an accessory, so I don't believe that this accessory, banning this accessory, is infringing on civil rights or on the Second Amendment. Furthermore, the concerns of other colleagues that a technique cannot be banned. I believe that in learning the technique, there's a difference between learning a technique and adding an accessory. And if the person who's adding an accessory is not trained and does not know, and they're just simply adding the accessory without really realizing realizing the consequences. I see the argument in the prevention of learning and a technique, but I feel like a learning experience is more beneficial to a gun owner than adding an accessory in the first place. In doing further research, I'd just like to provide some definitions as well. An automatic weapon is defined as a weapon that can shoot 15 shots per second. In 1 second, 15 bullets. Bump stocks, when added as an accessory to the weapons, can shoot as fast as 9 shots per second. I understand gun enthusiasm, and I understand that it's a hobby for many people. I'm just really curious as to what would be the purpose of having an accessory. Like, is there a certain sport or is there a certain competition that involves the necessity for 9 bullets every second? That seems like a lot. If you multiply that for a minute, if you're shooting for a minute, that's 540 bullets per minute. And where are all those bullets gonna go? Where are all those? It just seems like a very, it just seems very excessive. The Second Amendment was written about the Second Amendment was written in the 1700s. This was a time when arms meant a gun that shot one bullet at a time, and it required several seconds of reloading before they were allowed to fire. And that is those arms are what the Second Amendment, from the founding fathers' perspectives, were trying to defend. The advancement of technology to the point where people can shoot 9 shots per second. Can you imagine the possibility of killing 9 people in 1 second? And a lot of people in defending bump stocks say the amount of firing doesn't matter because all it takes is 1 bullet. When in reality, if it takes 1 bullet, then you can kill 9 people in a second. The right to bear arms was created by founding fathers at a time when guns were so different than the way they are now. And I feel like people need to realize that when defending their Second Amendment rights. I see if people were interested in the founding fathers' perspectives, then I see no problem with them owning guns that the founding fathers had at the time when they made the Second Amendment. But the guns that we have now are advancing so quickly that that line of what is arms, according to the founding fathers, has been blurred so much. In conclusion, Madam Chair, I just wanted to express my support of both intentions of this resolution. I see the enthusiasm and the support and the protection of the Second Amendment and being able to defend yourself. But at the same time, the bump stocks, at the same time, bump stocks are an accessory that make a weapon more dangerous. They don't fall under the idea of arms. So the ban of bump stocks is, the ban on bump stocks, I don't see it as an infringement of the Second Amendment rights. And at the end of the day, Madam Chair, the safety of our people should be heavily considered. And the smallest amount of dangerous weapons that our people can see as a threat and people can be in danger of that we have in our community, I see that as the better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Santos. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak?
Madam Chair, I have a question. If Speaker Santos would like to yield?
Oh, yes. Speaker Santos, we'd like to yield to a question.
Sure.
So you stated that the Second Amendment shouldn't apply to the technological advances of what we have today in guns, correct?
Yes.
So with your belief, then do you believe that the First Amendment right does not protect the technological advances of the internet because the framers couldn't predict that we have the internet today?
I think speech is a different issue, and speech can be defended in many ways, and the conveyance of ideas through speech and press is a completely different issue than the advancements of technology and the advancement of technology in terms of weapons and guns. I see those as two separate issues that I don't feel apply in regards to this resolution.
But couldn't you argue that speech hurts as many people every day because of instances like bullying, and people consider speech now to be hate speech? Couldn't you argue the same thing, that speech can hurt and kill as many people because there have been suicides related to what people have said. So therefore, doesn't it mean that both of these...
Point of order. It's supposed to be addressed to the Madam Chair.
Representative LeBang, please. I'm so sorry. Yes, Representative LeBang
I'm
brought
so
up the
sorry.
point.
Yes.
Vice Speaker McDonald and Speaker Santos, please address the chair. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry, Miss.
No problem. For
Chair.
clarification. Thank you so much. Yes, you may continue.
Okay, Madam Chair, wouldn't it make more sense if, let me rephrase that. Couldn't you say that speech, which is a First Amendment right, should be treated as every right? Wouldn't you say that you would want to treat speech, the right to free speech, the same way that you'd want to treat any other right? Because it is arguable that speech can lead to people harming themselves or leading to deaths of others.
Speaker Santos?
Madam Chair, I feel as though speech is something intangible. Speech is something that can be translated in varieties of medium. And I feel as though the physical reality of weapons is a completely different issue. And I don't see the rationale of bringing up the First Amendment when we're talking about bump stocks.
My rationale was, it was completely rational because you made the statement that the framers, or I'm sorry, Speaker Santos made the statement that the framers did not intend to have the same technology advances as the Second Amendment right now. Obviously, it should be applied to speech because once you apply one thing to one right, it should be applied to all rights because they are inherited rights given by the framers and the Constitution. So, also, just another point of order that I think is important to make out is instead of guns in Europe, we're seeing a lot of people die more from cargo trucks and knives. So, Mr. Speaker, wouldn't you also, oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Ms. Chair, wouldn't you agree that if people are dying more from knives and trucks, that we should ban those as well?
Okay, hi. So sorry, excuse me. I would like to stop this debate because I feel like we are going farther away from the resolution. So based on the general rules of bills of the Guam Youth Congress Standing Rules, section 6.4.1, which is titled One Subject Matter. As we are seeing through this discussion, the intent or the title of this resolution is to commemorate the mass shootings of the high school in Florida while supporting Bill 265-34 from the Guam legislature. So I think that we're just going too far. We're digressing. I mean, Vice Speaker McDonald, you brought up guns in Europe,
Okay.
and
I'm done, Mr. Chair.
yes.
I just have a point of information as well. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Chair, but I don't believe the high school in Florida actually used the bump stock in the Valentine shooting. I believe that they did not use a bump stock there. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. And
Yes.
so,
Thank you for that.
yeah, but the bill says Florida. Oh, okay.
Thank you for that point of information. So like I said, it's in our standing rules that resolutions and bills are only for one subject, and I see two. So because of this, I would like to kill the bill, or not kill the.
Rule the bill out of order.
Yes, yes, thank you, Speaker Santos. I would like to rule this resolution out of order. Right.
I have an amendment.
Madam Chair, can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, okay, so if you can see on the Guam Youth Congress Standing Rules, page 12, section 6.4.1, one subject matter, when a bill is introduced by a member, shall encompass only one subject. Now, I see two. In the past, Representative LeBang has made a commemorative certificate, and the fact that he combined both is just two different subject matters. So if he did one commemorating the mass shooting and then one supporting, I feel like that would have been better, but he just kind of mashed the two together. So that's my.
With that, no, that's my amendment. That's why.
Representative Ben, you're recognized.
Okay. So the amendment is to strike out in Congressman Hobbins Guahan support in bill since it's only one subject matter, right? So like the last clause of my title, the in Congressman Hobbins Guahan support of the bill, and strike out lines 13
On what
through
page?
4, 13 of page 1. Page 1, 13 to 15, strike that out. Then on page 2, lines 1 through 4, strike it out. And on line 12, going back to that, and therefore be it. Then back to page 2, from lines 8, express, and express from that one until line 11.
So in simple terms, you would like to get rid of the, you would like to
The
delete
supporting of the bill, because like it's just to stick to
the
the
commemorating.
commemoration and against gun violence part. Take that out as well. If that's the case. Or wait, because like
So there's been sorry, I'd like to take it to like a recess, please.
Session for the 31st Guam Youth Congress is hereby called back to order. We're addressing an amendment to Resolution 15-31 relative to basically striking out the support of Bill number 265-34. Is that correct?
yes.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the amendment? Are there anyone for or against this amendment?
I just want to say that by striking this, I'm going to reintroduce it. Because like going back to the standing rules is supposed to be one subject matter.
So we're discussing an amendment right now. Is there anyone who wishes to testify on this amendment? If not, then we'll take it to a vote. Is there any objections to this amendment? Representative Rigetti has an objection. By show of hands, all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Motion passes. We are discussing Resolution 15-31 as amended, commemorating support for the Marjorie Stoneman High School in Florida. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the On the resolution? Yes, Representative McDonald, you're recognized. We're discussing the resolution as amended, so she's allowed to. But is there anyone who wishes to speak on the resolution as amended? Seeing as Representative Rigetti, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first, I would like to clarify whether or not I'm going to make the right testimony in support of the new amended resolution, because I felt that it was important that they, while I can understand that it's necessary by our standing rules to not have a resolution with two separate subject matters. Yes, thanks. I feel that there is a big connection between like assault rifles, semi-automatic weapons, and the addition of the bump stock attachment. I think that these are all very similar, and one thing that these mass shootings have in common, not just at the school, particularly the one here mentioned in the resolution, but I think they all have something in common, which is this high rapid rate of fire. So I feel like I should be able to express my support for the amended resolution, but also provide testimony, which will mention bump stock bans. So I'm just, I guess, point of inquiry whether I'm allowed to say this or not.
As the chair, I rule that as allowed. You're allowed to talk about that in your testimony.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to read what I had written previously. I wish to express my support for the resolution, and just keep in mind that this was the one originally before it was amended. But now it's also in support of the newly amended version. A movement is taking place, and while students are marching nationwide, opposing parties claim defense of the Second Amendment as paramount, going so far as to claim that their rights are being taken away, when the reality is that mass shootings are claiming innocent lives and taking away the peace of mind for men, women, and children. Schools are practicing active shooter drills. Debates over whether or not we should arm teachers are taking place. We are a nation in fear, and this fear is spreading rapidly. In a matter of minutes, communities find themselves mourning, in grief, and in the national spotlight. However, almost as quickly as tragedy struck, the communities joined together to hold vigils and express their solidarity with the communities across the country who have also experienced the pain and confusion that mass shootings have caused. This has to stop. There can be no more mass shootings, no more communities in mourning, and no more fear. As a nation, we must listen to the communities who have experienced these tragedies, and each of these communities has a message. Stricter gun control. Ban the sale and possession of bump stock attachments. We cannot allow lives to be taken in a matter of seconds. We cannot allow a weapon attachment that can slay a large number of innocent people in a matter of seconds to exist. We must listen to the communities in mourning and not allow such tragedy to occur in our own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rigetti. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on Resolution 15-31 as amended? Seeing as there are none, Representative LeBang, you may close.
Okay, so we all know that active shooter training has happened in our schools, but the problem is our schools here on Guam doesn't have security at all. But I don't see the fact that President Trump has said that he rather give funds to fund teachers that have guns and give them a salary raise. But I think we should arm our teachers with the quote I had yesterday on PNC News, that I rather arm our teachers with more books, resources, rather than arming them with guns. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there any motions?
I move to place Resolution 15-31 to third reading file.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Are there any other motions? Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a motion to move Resolution 16-31 to the second reading file.
There's been a motion to move Resolution 16-31 to the second reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, as you all may know, Police Week is celebrated nationwide, and it's celebrated from May 13th to May 19th. And I wrote this resolution to recognize all the hardworking women and men on this island who dedicate their lives to ensure that we're safe. And although police officers, they primarily work 8-hour shifts, maybe even more, you kind of realize that they're never really off the clock. They are constantly on alert to protecting our safety and to protecting our safety at otherwise normal settings such as the mall, the parks, restaurants. And I speak from firsthand experience. My father is a police officer in Guam, in the Guam Police, and on numerous occasions, on numerous occasions, I would see him step in when there are situations that are becoming too out of hand, and he would take the necessary steps and the necessary measures to ensure that the people around the situation were safe. And this isn't only for Guam Police Department. This is for the Port Authority of Guam Police, the AB Wanpad Guam International Airport with the Guam Police. You know, they work every day to ensure that we're safe and that our rights are protected. So I wrote this resolution to recognize all of their hard work and all their sacrifices that they make for our island. And so I please ask that you do support this resolution, because I think it's time that, or I think it's like we recognize them for all their hard work that they help us for our general safety. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this resolution? Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
I just want to say that I'm in support of this resolution because we all know our policemen are on 24 hours to ensure our safety. And I think it's a good idea to meet with them, like, you know, how they have the coffee with a cup? Because, like, in that sense, some of us maybe haven't experienced that. When you do something bad, your parents will send you to police, so, like, you kind of fear them, right? So, in this sense that by recognizing them, we're taking that away. And, like, so when something happened to us, it's easier for us to reach to them and to, especially right now, like sexual assault rate, it takes time for them to be addressed. Takes like that. That's all I'm in for this bill. Resolution, I mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this resolution? Seeing as there are none, Representative Lorenzo, you may close.
Thank you, Speaker Santos, and I would hopefully assume that all of your nonverbal was mean that you are in support of this resolution, but thank you, Representative LeBang. I'm glad that you guys see the impact that all the police officers make in our community and for helping us be safe. So thank you.
We're in motions. Are there any motions?
Sorry, thank you. I make a motion to move Resolution 16-31 to the third reading file.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you.
And with that, we have exhausted all the items on our agenda. Moving on to second roll call.
I make a motion to reflect Representative Rigetti on the first roll call. And yeah, because she came late.
There's been a motion to...
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. May I get second roll call?
Representative Adeweg. Representative Angara. Representative Blas. Representative Carranza. Representative Casilla. Representative Cruz. Representative DeLore. Representative DeSoto. Representative Farron. Representative Felisan. Representative LeBang. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Makepeace. Representative Keandra McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Richards. Representative Rigetti. Speaker Santos. Representative Tamagan. Representative Valencia. Speaker, you have a quorum.
Moving on to item 18, consideration of the daily file. Can I get a third reading for the bills and resolutions we discussed today?
Mr. Speaker, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I wasn't here for some of the discussion on the bills, am I able to abstain from a vote?
You mean excused?
No.
To be excused in the vote?
No, she means abstain from voting. Yeah.
Just for like 20, 21, and 14, and.
Just point of order, 21 was back to committee.
Okay, yeah, see, I didn't even know that.
Okay.
So if I'm able to abstain from 20 and Bill 14?
So there's Representative Keandra McDonald is requesting to abstain from Bill 20 and Resolution 14. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. That's fine.
Bill number 19-31, introduced by Brianna Cruz, Tristan X.V. Quintanilla. An act to amend Section 1022 of Chapter 10, Title 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the territorial flower of Guam.
Roll call.
Representative Angara. Representative Angara, aye. Representative Casilla. Representative Casilla, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, aye. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, aye. Representative Keandra McDonald. Representative Keandra McDonald, aye. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, nay. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Rigetti. Representative Rigetti, aye. Speaker Santos. Speaker Santos, aye. Representative Tamagan. Aye. Representative Tamagan, aye. Oh, sorry.
With a vote of 11 ayes and 1 nay, Bill number 19-31 hereby passes. Moving on to Bill 20-31.
Bill number 20-31, introduced by Javen W. Santos, Byron Blas, Stephanie F. L. Lorenzo. An act to add a new Article 7 to Chapter 26, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated, relative to creating a rental car surcharge to supplement the general fund and public transportation.
Roll call.
Representative Angara. Representative Angara, aye. Representative Casilla. Representative Casilla, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, pass. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, aye. Representative Kendra McDonald. Representative Kendra McDonald, abstain, right? Okay, got it, thanks. Representative Kendra McDonald. Sorry, Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, aye. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Righetti. Representative Righetti, aye. Speaker Santos. Speaker Santos, aye. Representative Tamagan. Representative Tamagan, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, aye.
With a vote of 11 ayes and 1 abstain, Bill number 20-31 hereby passes. Moving on to Resolution 13-31.
Resolution number 13-31, introduced by Stephanie F. L. Lorenzo. Relative to removing Representative Kaliko Farron and the 31st Guam Youth Congress due to the inactivity and absence of such members for more than 3 consecutive sessions. I'll go ahead and just reread the resolution. Okay? All right. Relative to removing Representative Farron, Representative DeLore, Representative Carranza, and Representative Adawag of the 31st Guam Youth Congress due to inactivity and absence of such members for more than 3 consecutive sessions.
Roll call.
Representative Angara. Representative Angara, aye. Representative Casilla. Representative Casilla, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, aye. Representative LeBang. Representative LeBang, aye. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, aye. Representative Keandra McDonald. Representative Keandra McDonald, aye. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, aye. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Rigetti. Representative Rigetti, aye. Speaker Santos. Speaker Santos, aye. Representative Tamagan. Representative Tamagan, aye.
Resolution number 13-31, as amended on the floor, passes unanimously. Moving on to resolution 14-31.
Resolution number 14-31, introduced by Al Edrich C. Lebang, relative to expressing a Congressman Manhobin Guahan's support of Bill number 264-34, cited as the Working Families Relief Act, and introduced in the Minute 34 na Legislature in Guahan, the 34th Guam Legislature.
Roll call.
Representative Angara. Representative Angara, nay. Representative Casilla. Representative Casilla, aye. Representative Cruz. Representative Cruz, aye. Representative DeChoso. Representative DeChoso, aye. Representative LeBang. Sorry? Representative LeBang, aye. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, pass. Representative Keandra McDonald. Representative Keandra McDonald, abstained. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, nay. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Rigetti. Representative Rigetti, aye. Speaker Santos. Speaker Santos, nay. Representative Tamagan. Representative Tamagan, aye. Representative Lorenzo. Representative Lorenzo, aye.
With a vote of 9 ayes and 3 nays, resolution 14-31 hereby passes. Moving on to resolution 15-31.
Resolution number 15-31, introduced by Al Edridge C. LeBang, relative to commemorating the catastrophic mass shooting of the Marjorie Stoneman High School in Florida, to expressing full support against gun violence and I'll read the resolution one more time. Relative to commemorating the catastrophic mass shooting of the Marjorie Stoneman High School in Florida, to expressing full support against gun violence.
By show of hands, all those in favor, please raise your hand. By unanimous vote, show of hands, resolution 15-31 hereby passes. Resolution 16-31.
Resolution number 16-31, introduced by Stephanie F.L. Lorenzo, relative to recognizing the week of May 13th through the 19th, 2018 as Guam Police Week, and honoring all of the brave women and men of the Guam Police Department, Port Authority of Guam Police, and the A.B. Wampat Guam International Airport Authority Police for their service in protecting our island.
By show of hands, all those in favor, please raise your hand. By unanimous vote, show of hands, resolution 16-31 hereby passes. Moving on to a brief extension of remarks. Is there anyone who would wish to speak on the matters we've discussed today? There was a lot. Yeah, Representative McDonald, you're recognized.
My apologies, Representative Lorenzo. But I just want to express that on resolution 15-31, I want to thank the Corps and Representative Lorenzo for pointing that out, that it was two separate issues, because no one is going to say that they support mass shootings. No one. No one is going to say that they support gun violence. So I just want to point that out, whether you're a gun enthusiast or not. I'm not a gun enthusiast. I don't even have a gun. I don't even know how to, like, you know, I'm not an expert on anything of that sort. But no one is going to say that they want mass shootings to continue. No one's going to say that they want more gun violence to continue. So thank you for amending the resolution to this version, because I'm sure everyone, no matter what background they come from, support that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Vice Speaker McDonald. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the matters we discussed today? Representative LeBang.
I want to thank everyone who supported resolution 14 and 15. For 14, I think accepting families will really help. Accepting families that want to lift up their status in our community would benefit from that bill. And for the resolution 15, I think we should have a moment of silence for those who passed away on that mass shooting. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Is there anyone else who would wish to make a brief extension of remarks? Representative Cruz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to say thank you to everyone, most especially Javen and Tristan, for helping me draft my bill and really executing it. And for all of your support, thank you so much for everyone who supported me.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Is there anyone else who would like to make a brief extension of remarks? Representative Quintanilla, you're recognized.
Yes, I would also like to express thanks to everyone who voted in support of Bill 19-31. Every one of you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a brief extension of remarks? If not, then we will move on to announcements. Announcements from me. Joe has stipends. If you guys would like to pick up your stipends, you can pick it up after we adjourn. Is there anyone else who would like to make an announcement? Yes, Representative LeBang.
Isn't there a committee that don't have a chairman yet?
A committee what?
Without chairmanship? Like Committee on Education?
Oh, that's true. So Representative Stiles, the chair of the Education Committee, he recently submitted his letter of resignation, and there's an empty committee chairmanship. Do you guys want to do nominations for that right now? Can I get a motion to table nominations for next session? Representative McDonald?
I make a motion to table nominations for the education chair.
Is there any seconds? Representative Lorenzo. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion carries. Are there any other, Representative LeBang, you have the floor. Is there any other announcements from you? Seeing as there are none, Representative McDonald, you're recognized.
I make the motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Are there any objections? Representative Quintanilla, you object to the motion to adjourn? Or does Representative McDonald withdraw her motion?
I withdraw my motion to adjourn.
Okay. Representative Quintanilla, we're on announcements. You're recognized.
Just really quick, I'm writing a letter to the Guam Daily Post, and I was wondering if the Youth Congress would like to support this letter. It is basically a letter of why the youth is important to the politics of Guam and vice versa. I wanted to ask the Guam Youth Congress if they wanted to support this letter and perhaps even author it as a letter from the body. I just wanted to ask that here. Yes, no?
Sure, yeah, we can talk about it after we adjourn.
Okay, that's all.
Representative McDonald, you're recognized.
I remake my motion to adjourn.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, the Guam Youth Congress session is hereby adjourned. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh, we adjourn until the call of the speaker?
There's a motion to adjourn at the call of the speaker. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. The Guam Youth Congress session is hereby adjourned.